Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name's Keir Smith, back today with a video that's all about the most stellar year in the history of rock and roll, which in my opinion is 1973. I said in a recent video that 1973 was probably the year that I owned the most albums from, and after I went rummaging in my room for all of these albums, I think it's true. There are so many albums that I love from this year. Some really great singer-songwriter albums, some great albums from great bands. You've got a great year for progressive rock albums, art rock, krautrock. There's so much to enjoy, so much variation, a real creative splurge from so many great bands and artists. And I've got no fewer than 31 albums from my collection from the year 1973 to show you. And I won't talk too much about each of these albums because the chances are if you clicked on this video, you already know about the greatness across these albums. But of course, I will hold up each album, tell you my favourite songs from the album, tell you about how much I love the artist or the band. And with that said, I won't waste any more time and I'll get started. But where does one start with this most incredible year of music? Well, I'll start with my favourite album from this year. And that album is Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon. I don't need to say too much about this album, of course. Everything that could have been said has pretty much already been said. I'll just tell you that this is one of my favourite albums of all time. It's not my favourite Pink Floyd album, but it could well be second or third. Time is, however, my favourite song of all time, and there's not a bad second on this album. I think it's truly wonderful. So that album puts me in the progressive rock genre, and I'll carry on with that genre and hold up my next album, which is King Crimson's Larks, Tongues and Aspic. And this is my favourite King Crimson album. The two title tracks, part 1 and part 2, that bookend the album are truly progressive, exploring a number of weird and wonderful sounds, truly frightening at times. And then you have the lovely tranquil calm of a song like Book of Saturday. But my favourite song on the album is Easy Money. Bill Bruford's drumming and his percussive touches on that song are truly brilliant. And I love that grinding guitar and that stomping, marching feel it has to it. They really don't make them like this anymore. Up next, Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Brain Salad Surgery, my favourite album by the band. I love Carnival 9, all 3 impressions of it. The opening track, Jerusalem, is great. Still, You Turn Me On, I love that. Toccator's a bit much and Benny the Bouncer is truly odd, but somehow it all works. Love it. Next we have Yes, Tales from Topographic Oceans, their double album. John Anderson at his most mystical, Yes at their most expansive. Yes pushed the boundaries of progressive rock as far as they could possibly push them here. 4 sides of music here. Yes, it meanders a little at times, but there's some truly great Yes music across this album. It's not my favourite Yes album, but it's a wonderful thing. Next we have an album by Jethro Tull, A Passion Play. Now this comes after the great Aqualung and Thick as a Brick albums. And this is a full-on concept album. And I think that the narrative sometimes gets in the way of the music here. I must admit I haven't settled with this album yet. I need to listen to it some more for sure. Next we have Genesis, Selling England by the Pound. And like Yes, Genesis spread out here. There's 4 songs on this album between the 8 and 12 minute mark, but of those, Firth of Fifth is brilliant and I really like The Cinema Show, and they even had a hit with I Know What I Like, In Your Wardrobe. Up next is a truly landmark album of the year, Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells. This is an album that I believe everyone should listen to at least once. Admittedly, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Certainly a load of people bought it, and it's incredible how much one man can do with all of these instruments. I could say this about a lot of albums on this list, but there isn't anything quite like this. Next I have an album I can't tell you anything about because I only bought it recently and I haven't got around to listening to it yet, but my prog guru Scott Lade on his wonderful channel, The Prog Corner, he talks about it often, and it is the Mahavishnu Orchestra with Birds of Fire. As I say, I've heard Scott mention this a few times on his channel and it seems like it's one of those progressive albums that I have to own, so I'm looking forward to hearing it sometime soon. Next we have krautrock with Faust 4, another album I only bought recently, maybe a few months back now. I've listened to this album 3 times and I enjoy it. if you can get past the first track, which is called Krautrock, and this is a slow, meandering, mechanical sounding thing that doesn't really go anywhere, but I like it all the same. Some people are put off by the term krautrock and think, oh, I can't like that, but it's not that radical. You've got a song like The Sad Skinhead, which is kind of like short stabs of reggae, really. And the last track, It's a Bit of a Pain, is an acoustic number, but then it gets offset by these crazy electronic sounds. But this is an interesting body of work and I look forward to hearing it again. Up next we have Arts Rock with Roxy Music's second album, For Your Pleasure. A lot of people will know Do the Strand, which is a really good song, but I really like Strictly Confidential and Editions of You, In Every Dream Home, A Heartache, The Bogus Man, it's all good. For this next album, I've unfolded the CD sleeve to show you this wonderful artwork. This is Frank Zappa's Overnight Sensation, another madcap album by Frank Zappa. I don't think it's among his best, not among my favourites anyway, but Dirty Love, I'm the Slime and the wonderful Zombie Woofer on this, so there's enough to keep me interested. Okay, so that's most of the mad stuff out the way, or maybe the albums that would test your patience as a listener that bit more. Now it's pretty much classic rock all the way. So let's get on to some great albums now by some truly great bands. Okay, how about the Rolling Stones, Goat's Head Soup? Obviously this album follows that Fab Four of Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers and Exile on Main Street, so this doesn't get talked about as much, but this is home to some of my favourite Stones songs like 100 Years Ago. I really like Do Do, Do Do Do, Heartbreaker, a great song, and I love Winter, Dancing with Mr. D, some great stuff on this album. Next we have a concept album by ELO with El Dorado, symphonic sounds, lush orchestration, great production as always by Jeff Lynne, and really good songs. Boy Blue I really like, but my favourite is Can't Get It Out of My Head. I love that song. Next we have a loose concept album, but an album that hangs together really well. This is Eagles' Desperado. And of course I love the beautiful songs like the title track and Tequila Sunrise, but also the hard rocking songs like Outlaw Man and Out of Control. This is second only to the brilliant Hotel California for me. Up next is my go-to Led Zeppelin album. Not my favourite album by the band, but probably the one I pull out the most. Or is that Led Zeppelin 4? Or Physical Graffiti? I think it's this, Houses of the Holy. I love this thing. The song remains the same, the Rain song, Over the Hills and Far Away, all great songs. Not too mad on the crunge, but I'm actually one of the guys that likes the song Jamaica, in no small part due to John Bonham's brilliant pounding drums. Love that riff on the closing track, The Ocean, but my favourite song on the album is No Quarter. That song blows me away. Okay, if The Dark Side of the Moon was my favourite album from 1973, then this was second. This is Quadrophenia by The Who, another double album. It follows the story of mods and rockers, which is hugely entertaining throughout, and the band are just simply on fire across this album. Just brilliant instrumentation and musicianship. I love every second of this album. My favourite songs include The Real Me, Cut My Hair, I've Had Enough, 515, Drowned, Dr. Jimmy, and the brilliant closing finale, Love Reign Over Me. Next we have Faces, Ooh La La, and I must admit I've not heard this album in years and I must give it a re-listen sometime soon, but Cindy Incidentally is a really good song, Borstal Boys, and of course the title track. As I recall, 10 good songs by a good band. Now I've already displayed a lot of great albums from 1973, but 1973 was also a special year for us die-hard Beatles fans because there were as many as 5 solo releases that year. We've got Mind Games by John Lennon, let's call it a return to form after the much maligned Sometime in New York City album, and we've got the title track, Bring on the Lucy, Free the People, Out the Blue is fantastic, I love the closing track, Meat City, a really strong offering from John. And after an album of standards and then a country album, Ringo's first pop rock album was a big hit, simply titled Ringo. John gave a great song to Ringo here with the opening track, I'm the Greatest. George and Ringo co-wrote the beautiful Photograph. George also wrote Sunshine Life for Me, Sail Away Raymond, which is another really good song here and brilliantly played by the band. Have You Seen My Baby is a really good song, a song written by Randy Newman, and you've got Devil Woman, which Ringo wrote with Vinnie Poncia. McCartney wrote 6 O'Clock, which is a really nice song too. It's a good listen from start to finish, a truly enjoyable album. And George was at his most spiritual here with his excellent album, Living in the Material World. I absolutely love the songs, The Light That Has Lighted the World and Who Can See It. They're my 2 favourites from the album. Elsewhere, I really love the quietude of songs like Be Here Now and the closing track, That Is All. I really like Try Some Buy Some too. Don't Let Me Wait Too Long is an effervescent, joyous Harrison song, the single that never was. And of course he had a big hit with the song Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth. But it's these 2 Wings albums that mean so much to me. I love them both dearly. This one came first, Red Rose Speedway. Just a magnificent, polished pop album for me. Big Barn Bed, My Love, Get on the Right Thing, One More Kiss, Little Lamb Dragonfly, Single Pigeon, When the Night, Loop, First Indian on the Moon, a really cool instrumental, and then the glorious medley at the end. Hold Me Tight, Lazy Dynamite, Hands of Love and Power Cut, expertly pieced together. I love every second of this, it's wonderful. But having said that, it's not as good as this album. Band on the Run came later in 1973. Wings' masterpiece. The title track, Jet, and 1985 among McCartney and Wings' best compositions. I really love Mrs. Vanderbilt, Let Me Roll It is a great song, but the 3-part harmonies displayed on songs like Bluebird and Mamounia are fantastic. Wings were certainly at their highest on this album. 5 great albums from the Fab Four there, make no mistake. Okay, on to the singer-songwriter category, if you will. This is David Bowie's Aladdin Sane, a remarkable album, a top 3 Bowie album for me. I think, thanks in no small part to the brilliant operatic piano playing from Mike Garson and great songs throughout, from the opening roar of Watch That Man to the closing Lady Grinning Soul. And I really love songs like Driving Saturday, Panic in Detroit, Time is a huge favourite of mine, as is The Prettiest Star. Okay, up next is one of my favourite albums of all time, and when I say that, I don't say it lightly. It is a top 20 album of all time for me. This is magnificent. This is Lou Reed with Berlin. And we follow the tragic tale of Jim and Caroline, who get together, fall in love, party, drink, drug far too much. It all goes horribly wrong. Jim beats Caroline. Caroline takes more drugs and ends up having her children taken away because she's not a good mother, and she ends up committing suicide in the bed. It is a truly harrowing story with great songs throughout and incredible orchestration by the great Bob Ezrin. He really offers the most wonderful backdrop to Lou Reed's fantastic storytelling, and it works. It's absolutely brilliant from start to finish. You have to trust me on this one. Give it a listen. My favourite songs include How Do You Think It Feels, Oh Jim, Caroline Says Too, and The Bed. Next we have Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. The title track is a well-known classic, of course. But there's other good songs here like Please Stay, Once You Go Away, and the closing track, Just to Keep You Satisfied. And we've got Bruce Springsteen's Greetings from Asbury Park, NJ. We've got really good songs here like Blinded by the Light, Mary Queen of Arkansas, and of course the closing track, It's Hard to Be a Saint in the City, which of course was covered by the late great David Bowie. And we have an early masterpiece by the great Tom Waits. This is Closing Time. I really love the opening track, Old 55, both by Tom Waits and the excellent cover version by the Eagles. I Hope That I Don't Fall in Love with You is a great song, Midnight Lullaby, Lonely, Grapefruit Moon, and the closing track, Closing Time. This is fantastic. I love Tom Waits. The next album I'm going to show is an album I bought many years ago, and I bought this because I kept hearing it coming out of my brother Liam's bedroom. He was playing it a lot at the time and my ears pricked up and I really liked it too. So this is Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions, another album simply full of really good songs, some of Stevie's best in fact. Too High is a great opening track, Living for the City, Higher Ground, but as I'm sure my brother Liam will agree, we both really love the closing track, He's a Mr. Know-It-All. And we've also got this offering by the duo Daryl Hall and John Oates with Abandoned Luncheonette. And this isn't necessarily as you would expect to hear the duo. Of course, this is 1973, long before their string of polished pop hits in the 80s. For example, I really like this 7+ minutes title track here, and of course it is home to the beautiful She's Gone. And we have this tender and gentle, beautiful offering by the late great John Martin with Solid Air. Many will know the title track and the lovely May You Never, but I also like songs like Dreams by the Sea and I'd Rather Be the Devil, a really good album. And last but most definitely not least, we have the fabulous Elton John with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, another great double album from this year. From the epic 11 minutes plus opener, Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding, to the closing track, Harmony, this is full of great songs, great songwriting from Bernie Taupin and Elton John. So many different styles and genres covered across this great album. Of course, it's home to Candle in the Wind, the title track, Benny and the Jets, all great songs of course. But I really like songs like Jamaica Jerk Off and The Ballad of Danny Bailey. And that closing trio of Roy Rogers, Social Disease and the aforementioned Harmony is a really beautiful end to this album. A fine way to close 1973. And that's it. 31 albums I've taken you through that cover the year 1973 as I know it. A truly great year for music, no doubt about it. So many different genres and different takes and ideas on what an album could be. So much great artwork. They're some of the most iconic album covers ever. Not to mention some of the greatest albums ever. And of course, I'd love to know your thoughts on the year 1973. What were your favourite albums from this year? Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you care to suggest, let me know another year that you might like me to cover. I've got a lot of albums from the 70s. I was thinking to myself just the other day that 1975 might be another year that I'd like to cover. So let me know what you think. So all that leaves me to say is thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.